Hello. Can you guys see me and hear me? Are we good? StreamYard's bugging me. Sorry, hold on, guys. Yeah, can you guys see me and hear me okay? Are we good? Oh, boy, we got a lot to talk about. Bryan Kohberger accepted a plea deal. I'm shook. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. What is up? It's good to see y'all. Happy Tuesday. It's almost 4th of July. I have a short work week, so I'm hoping to stream on Friday. Hope you guys can make it. I had Suzanne Morphew live planned out tonight, and I wanted to come on here and just kind of hang out and do like a Bryan Kohberger. Let's see what everybody's saying. Let's watch some clips. Let's read a document, an article. Let's get into it because I don't know how to feel. I'm like disappointed, but at the same time I'm like, I think the families got shitted on, and I'm so upset about that. But at the same time, you know, I'm really upset at the fact that he's going to be living in a prison, and we'll get to that in a second. But let me say hi to everyone. Hey, Dodgy number 7. Hey, Eduardo. Hey, Jules. Hello. Yes. Thanks for being here. Okay, so Bryan Kohberger took a plea deal like 3 weeks before trial set to start. He's afraid of death. No, I don't think so. I think he's a literal psychopath, and I think he is going to get off on this. He's going to love the fact that he's not going to die, and he's going to live in a prison where he can still continue to torture the families and make money. Because you know how it is in the true crime world, like Wade Wilson. How we get his calls, and there's Jamie Komorowski. It's like these murders almost get glorified, and in a sense of like, how is it fair that Bryan Kohberger is going to be living in a prison with commissary, still being able to email, get pictures, work out, eat good food, like, you know, in there, rather than if he was locked in, if he got death row, you know. I don't know. I feel like he's going to get off on that, and we're going to continue hearing about Bryan Kohberger, and I just think that's going to be harder for the families. I'm going to play a clip of the Goncalves father talking, Steve Goncalves. Yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, I'm going to read this document first, actually. Let me pull it up. And hello, welcome. If you are new here, welcome. We cover all things true crime. Someone might hurt him if he's not isolated. Yeah, but I think it's a high profile case. I think he'll be fine for a little bit. Okay, this is CNN. And then this was from, wait, is that the one that I pulled up? Oh no, this one. And this is from 2 hours ago. Let's see. The grieving family of 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves spent weeks waiting for an arrest in her killing. Since then, they and the relatives of the 3 other University of Idaho students fatally stabbed on a late 2022 night in their off-campus home have endured a legal process punctuated by delay after delay. Now, a month before the suspect's murder trial was set to begin, the wait for justice is poised to an end in what one Goncalves family member called a quote-unquote shocking and cruel plea deal that would remove the possibility of the death penalty. After more than 2 years, this is how it concludes, with a secretive deal and a hurried effort to close the case without any input from the victims' families on the plea details, the Goncalves family said in a statement shared with CNN. And that's a big part of like why I'm so upset, because to find out that they didn't even have really a say. The plea was to deals to save time and money. Why offer a plea deal when there's a mountain of evidence? Because that's just it. the defense, there's a mountain of evidence. So I think that the defense has nothing else. They tried everything. They exhausted all of their options. They just had a DoorDash driver coming out saying that she saw Bryan Kohberger. Like, what they couldn't pull the autism, defense. What did they have? They saved him by getting him life in prison without the possibility of parole. But what does that even mean? Like, because look at the Menendez brothers. Okay, they got the life without the possibility of parole, and look at everything that's happened. You never know, like whatever comes out in the future or whatever arises from this case in the future, like I'm not saying he's going to get it, but in that he is a Menendez brothers, but I mean, the justice system is so warped that you never know. So I feel like if some of the family members wanted an eye for an eye and wanted the death penalty, I think that should have been respected. And I don't know. I think the judge can say no. And I don't know who offered it. I don't know. Do we know? Maybe we'll find out tonight. Was it the defense or the prosecution team that offered I'm sure it was a defense. But, I think the judge can say no, right, to plea deals if they get offered one, but they can also introduce them. So, and what's the rush? Like, I know that the family, and we're going to watch a couple interviews, but I know that the family, said that they found out Friday that there was something said about it. And then Sunday night, they got an email that the plea deal had been, that had been processed, that it was going to go through. And don't get the law there. You plead early to avoid the death sentence. Why bother having a death sentence? And that's also something else that I'm like, wait, so if the death penalty isn't made for people like Bryan Kohberger in Idaho, tell me, why did they introduce it and why the hell do they have it if they're not going to use it? If Bryan Kohberger is not worthy of it, who is? I mean, he killed 4 people in one night, and let's just, he didn't just run them over and they died. Like, no, and no, Melly, that's still horrific. It is, absolutely. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying he brutally slashed their throats and did all kinds of other brutal stuff. Like, it wasn't just, that's some real dark shit. And that's why I say he's a psychopath. Like, he's going to love this. He gets to sit in prison and we're all going to wonder. That's why I titled my life, We Will Never Know the Truth, because we will absolutely never know the truth. He's never going to come clean. He's never going to tell the exact truth, detail by detail. He's going to make it what he wants. We can't hear from the victims. They're dead, unfortunately. And then the witnesses that were there, most of them don't even want to testify, and who knows what they saw. Everybody was drunk as hell. And no one's going to ever know the truth. No one, except those victims, and sadly, they're gone. And so I just think he likes that. I think he's going to be juicing it. I think he's going to be phone calls. I think he's going to get $1 million book deal. And I think throughout the years, he's progressively just going to keep introducing little parts of the story that might not even be accurate, or maybe they will be. Maybe they will. Will we ever know if he's telling the truth? I don't know. Maybe if he sits in front of a light head, how accurate are those? I don't know. I don't really care for them. We'll just never know. And I think that's what he gets the happiness and joy from in this situation, that he's still inflicting pain on those family members. I mean, will their spirits ever rest? There's no justice. Sure, he's locked up. Okay, so what? He gets to wake up every morning, get a good workout. He can even still go to college while he's in prison. You look at all the Menendez brothers did. They were freaking getting degrees from Harvard. They built the floral wall. They fucking went to, I don't know. They did so much while they were incarcerated. It's not fair. I don't think. Am I one to say who gets to live and who doesn't? No. An eye for an eye. Do I believe that? Yeah. So I guess that gives you my answer on to how do you feel about it, right? And so I don't know. I just think that's really disappointing. Yeah. No, he got 4 life sentences. And I'm like, okay, what? And I kind of hate that. Why is that a thing in the justice system? Like, you get 4 life sentences. Like, unless you're in the spiritual world, you don't, here you don't get more than, like, he's not going to live. What's 80 times 4? 320 years. Like, excuse me? Why does that even matter? Like, just say for life, like 4 life sentences. I don't get it. Like, I never understood that, because I'm like, well, a human can only live so long, right? Unless you come back to Earth as something else. And that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different world that we're not talking about here tonight. But it, in a sense, I just feel like I can empathize with the victims, the family members that are so upset and distraught about this. I really do. And I really do think Bryan is a psychopath, and he is a criminologist. He was studying it, and he knows, and he's going to continue to study it. And I think this is just ridiculous. But I also, for a minute, was thinking, like, maybe he's just playing games. Like, maybe, because I think he can go back on this. I think he can say, never mind. And so I'm pretty sure, I'm not a lawyer, but I think I heard that you can go back on this. And, like, what if he does? What if he's just getting his team more time for what? I don't know. I don't think they have anything legitimate to defend him. I really don't. I just really don't. But why put him away for the next 60 years till he dies? I feel like if you're guilty and no chance of parole, then take them out. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to continue reading this. So it says, the plea deal would bring an abrupt end to a case that has captured national attention since the 4 brutal killings rocked the small college town of Moscow. Bryan Kohberger, a 30-year-old former PhD student of criminology at a nearby Washington State University, was charged in January 2023 with the fatal stabbings of Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, both 20, and Madison Mogen, 21. Under the deal, Kohberger would plead guilty to 4 counts of murder in exchange for the government dropping the death penalty. A person familiar with the matter told CNN. Goncalves' family attorney Shannon Gray confirmed the deal to CNN, which has reached out to the families of Chapin and Mogen about the pending agreement. This isn't what we should be doing, Kaylee's father says, Steve. You don't deal with terrorists, and you don't deal with people who kill your kids in their sleep. So we'll never see this as justice. Xana's father, Jeff, also expressed his issues with the deal. This is so crazy. I cannot believe this. We were like getting ready to watch this trial. I do not agree with this outcome and expressed my concerns before the deal was negotiated, especially regarding what I believe would be the best capital punishment, Kernodle said in a statement today. After nearly 3 years of waiting and being told there would be a trial with evidence presented to convict him, I'm disappointed in the prosecutor's decision. And, let me finish this. A hearing in the case is scheduled for Wednesday, tomorrow, in front of Judge Stephen Hippler. A court document shows it will deal with the plea agreement. A letter from the prosecutor to a victim's family, says the Idaho statement report. The Goncalves family has asked prosecutors to delay Wednesday's hearing to give them a little more time to get to Boise. Hippler, a Boise native, was appointed as a district judge by Governor C.L. Butch Otter for the 4th Judicial District Court in 2009. Death row is the only place where they're actually treated as true criminals. And it's sad that this individual won't be treated like a true criminal. That's what I was saying. He gets to get his little commissary, and he gets to buy his little honey buns and shit. Like, how is that fair? Like, how is that fair? And he can have a full-on boyfriend and girlfriend and be getting it on. We don't know. Like, he gets to do all of these things that those 4 college students will never get to do. Like, never. I'm shook. Hey, Eternal, good to see you. The death penalty is a bargaining chip. And, like, what is even, like, okay, so how is that fair if the family was, like, all against it? Like, it seems like a couple of the families were ineligible for pardon, although highly unlikely. He doesn't deserve any luxuries. That's what I'm saying. I agree with Steve Goncalves. How is that legit? How is that, like, he's going to enjoy his life being locked up? I think I was for the death penalty in this case. I really do. And that kind of makes me sad, because I'm like, well, not really, because He unalived 4 students. And what was it, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? I don't know. Like, what the heck? The offer was made on a Sunday. Then 2 days later, we're supposed to go to court on 4th of July weekend. Can people not see what's going on here? Goncalves said. This is ridiculous. Nothing moved in this case for a year. And in 3 days, it's over. Jury selection in Kohberger's murder trial was set to begin August 4th. And I feel like they're hiding stuff. Like, why do I feel like they're hiding stuff? Okay, and another thing is, like, how much access are we going to have to all of these documents? Like, if they were going to offer him a plea deal, I think it should have been a plea deal. Basically, like, what is the word? I know I heard it earlier on a live. It was like, where he has to go there and tell every detail. Like, how do we even know if he did go up there and tell every detail? Like, how do we know that's the truth? He's a psychopath. He could be lying about everything up there. Like, we don't know. Why would we trust a murderer who just slaughtered 4 college students? Like, I wouldn't trust that for shit if someone was going up there on the stand. Oh, Bryan Kohberger, judge, order in the court. Yes, sir. Please tell us everything. Like, he's going to sit up there and just be like, oh yeah, this is why I'm an incel and I'm a psychopath and I'm obsessed with murder, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I walked into the house that night. Like, no, he's not going to do that. He needs to make money to be able to buy all this commissary. And he's going to do it by living in prison and us getting his phone calls and him writing a book. Like, that's the type of stuff that's going to happen. Yeah. I think. It's truly a sad case out of all 4 young individuals that had a whole future. Yeah. I don't know. I really hope that there's true justice, and I hope that he gets what he deserves. I don't know. You know, I don't know what that's like being in prison. Not in a prison. An abrupt end to a national saga. The Goncalves family wasn't even called about the plea and merely received an email with a letter attached, they said in a social media post. The letter sent to the victim's family from Moscow prosecuting attorney Bill Thompson indicates Kohberger will likely be sentenced to life in prison if he pleads guilty, and the deal requires him to waive his right to appeal. Still, the Goncalves family blasted prosecutors. Very unexpected decision, writing in a short social media post, "We are beyond furious at the state of Idaho. They have failed us." By contrast, Madison Mogen's father is choosing acceptance. He told Idaho statesman, saying the plea agreement would let his family avoid trial and allow its wounds to keep healing. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I'm not being mean when I say, what? Like, with all due respect, whose dad was this? Mogen. Like, no, sir. I'm sorry. I want to know, like, no. How can you? I'm not a parent, so maybe this is why my opinion's different. I don't know. Let me know. I just feel like, how can you go to bed just knowing that the person who killed one of your children is just, especially when we're going to be seeing him all over social media. I'm like, how is that healing? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a different type of person. Maybe I'm cut differently, if you know what I mean. But is that how they say it? Like, I don't know. He'll hopefully be sued for any money taking involving. Yeah, but I mean, his parents could still get money. And like, you know what? I know I was hearing something that like Bryan Kohberger accepted this because of his family, and he didn't want his family to go through testifying against him because they know stuff. Our phone call, we found out, wasn't to his dad. It was to his mom. Who does this sound like? Let's see. Chris Watts. Chris Watts, that trial, we'll never know. We'll never know. I don't even think Chris Watts, sometimes I don't even think he's guilty. I think that girl is. This is a whole nother case. But it's like that situation where we never got to see that, we never got a trial, never got to know anything. We'll never know. Like, this is what's going to happen in this case, in one sense, I feel like. And then two, like, do we get the documents? Like, do we get to see all of that? Like, we better. And so I think when I was saying like, oh, he was going to go up there and tell the truth, I think that should have been one of the things in the plea deal. Like, release everything they have, if because I'm sure there's a lot that we don't, that's sealed, right? And I think that would have at least helped a little bit. But then at the same time, it's like, why release all of that if it's not truly justice to the family and some people? Like, it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. But I feel like that's messed up. Like, this is messed up. So the state owns and runs the prisons now, I guess. And his family will get money. So the other crime that I was case that I was comparing it to was Brian Laundrie. The Landry parents, they were defending him, and they helped him. And so I think that Bryan Kohberger's parents would help him. They would make money off of this case and use it for his use if legally he wasn't entitled to GoFundMe's or money from, women like Wade Wilson, disgusting Wade Wilson. And so I think that this is a problem. I think this is a problem. I think this is really messed up. And I'm so sad for those families. Let's see. If Kohberger were given a death sentence, he wouldn't have to spend decades thinking about how terrible he made the world, Mogen told CBS Mornings. Okay, and that's like, I have so much to say about that, because it's like, wait. He wouldn't have to spend decades thinking about how terrible he made. He's not thinking of it like that. He's a literal serial killer, psychopath, narcissist. Like, does anybody know what that means? Study it. Look that shit up. It's crazy. He's loving this, and he's loving that he did this to all of us and the family members literally less than a month before trial was set to begin. Like, overcrowding is a problem. Yeah, it always is. It always is. Okay, let's continue this, and then we're going to watch the Goncalves clip. We can actually put this behind us and not have these future dates and future things that we don't want to have to be at, that shouldn't have to be at, that have to do with this terrible person, Mogen told CBS. We get to just think about the rest of our lives and have to try and figure out how to do it without Maddie and without the rest of the kids. This is them right here in the picture. I can't. Wow. Thompson's office could not comment on the news of the plea deal because of a wide-ranging gag order. Okay, they're making a plea deal secretly behind the families, behind everyone's back, and then there's a gag order. Like, what is with this case? Like, what the hell? In the letter to the Goncalves family, the prosecutor defended the deal as our sincere attempt to seek justice for your family, arguing that it will ensure Kohberger will spend the rest of his life in prison. No. In a lengthier statement posted by the Goncalves family, Kaylee's 18-year-old sister Aubrey took to issue with the suddenness of the deal after a painfully long legal process, calling it both shocking and cruel to bring it to the families just a week before the scheduled trial. I just said that. I'm like, Brian's sitting there like, oh my God, so happy that he did this. Trust. Had this proposal come a year and a half ago, the families could have had time to process, discuss, and potentially come to terms with the idea of a life sentence, however difficult that may be. The Goncalves family is not asking for vengeance, Aubrey wrote, but considers the possibility of life in prison an unfair outcome. Brian facing life in prison means he would still get to speak, form relationships, engage with the world. Meanwhile, our loved ones will have been silenced forever. The possibility of death penalty has loomed large over the proceedings, with Kohberger's defense team repeatedly arguing for it to be taken off the table. We all know he's guilty, Steve Goncalves told News Nation. There's more than enough evidence, but it's tough to put a community through this, and it could be bad for reputations and business identities, and there's fallout, but it isn't the will of the victims. This is just one person making a decision, he added, and it doesn't reflect what we were asking for. Carrie, hello, love. Hello, I'm so glad you made it. Good to see you, babes. Brian deserves worse than the worst with his commissary honey buns. He don't even deserve them honey buns. I thought they only had a day to fly into the proceeding. They do, and they can't even make it. I'll send you late. And they can't even make it. Like, hey, 818, good to see you. That's why they were asking for an extension, and they didn't get it. They didn't get it. A frustrating legal journey. The victim's family have lived through a sprawling case, starting with a wait for suspect to be identified. I'll have to say something to you guys right now. For weeks, law enforcement released details about the investigation. Then on December 30th, 2022, more than a month after the November 13th killings, Kohberger was arrested in the state of Pennsylvania. Kohberger's arrest was based largely on DNA evidence, including a sample found on a knife sheath near one of the victim's bed and the DNA retrieved from the trash outside the Kohberger family home. Since then, the legal case has been marked by delays, including when Kohberger kept silent during his May 2023 arraignment when a judge asked for his plea on murder and burglary charges outlined in the indictment against him. Your Honor, we are standing silent. You guys remember that? Kohberger's attorney said before the judge entered not guilty pleas for him. That was, what a coward. Like, what a coward. You really want to act like you're a badass serial killer, go and kill these females, and then be like, nah, don't want the death penalty. I can't with him. As the case proceeded, the defense team filed motions to suppress DNA evidence obtained through forensic genealogy process and questioning the validity of other evidence, including cell phone records and the accuracy of a search warrant affidavit. Kohberger's trial was pushed back multiple times in disputes over evidence and witnesses. Last September, it was moved from 𝐁𝐞𝐥𝐥𝐲 County, where the crime took place, to the state capital of Boise. Last year, the Goncalves family expressed its frustration at the repeated delays, saying the case had turned into a hamster wheel of motions, hearings, and delayed decisions. Recent rulings narrowed Kohberger's legal defense options heading into trial. The judge had barred the defense from submitting an official alibi, as no one could confirm Kohberger's whereabouts at the time of the killings. Last week, the judge rejected the defense's attempt to present an alternate perpetrator theory. Kohberger's lawyers had planned to argue one of four other people committed the murders, but the judge ruled there was no evidence beyond pure speculation to support that claim. And I think that was like a big part of why they had this plea deal thing, because I think they had so much evidence against him, right? And the defense team was like, dude, we're screwed. Like, legit screwed. If he gets into Gen Pop, he won't last 18 months. You know what? We say that about Wade Wilson. And Wade Wilson, we thought like someone would take him out. Has he not been in Gen Pop? I thought he was in Gen Pop for a minute. No? Do not come. Oh, I'm coming for you. Friend. Oh, yeah. I heard the families want all the evidence brought onto court. I want it too. I think that's the least they can do. That's the least they can do. Okay, we're going to watch... I want to watch Steve Goncalves. Hold on. In the thing he did with News Nation. I do have my Modelo, by the way. Cheers. 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 I think it's tonight. We might have to do a Melly After Dark too, because I got some tea, baby. We got some stuff to talk about. But Wade looks the part. Kohberger looks like a victim. No. What do you mean Kohberger looks like a victim? He looks like a freaking psychopath, killer, murder. What do you mean? He does not look like a victim. Okay, let me see. This is gonna be good. Oh yeah, this is gonna be good. Bushy eyebrows and all, not scary. Ew, dude, and nasty bushy eyebrows. Looks like he could easily be victimized. No, absolutely not. Okay, let's see.
His attorney is Shannon Gray, who has stood by him steadfast from the beginning. Steve, you know, I don't know what to say. You're the first person I thought of when I heard this news today. I reached out to you right away, first to tell you how sorry I was, because I know how this is landing. At least I think I do. But I wanted you to have your say. I wanted you to be able to say out loud for everyone to hear what this means to you and your family.
This is anything but justice. This is the opposite of our will. There was no majority believing that this was acceptable. I want to honor all the police officers, the FBI, and all the people that work their tail off. The failure is at the court level, 100%. But the men in the boots on the ground and the women that were out there working, I want to honor everything that they did for our children, 100%. The fault is in leadership and the people that you place this evidence upon. They were weak. They decided to play God and decide what this man's decision should be, and not a jury, not a peers, not his peers. They, so that's where we are today.
Walk me through what happened. Brian Enton, did some really great reporting at the top of this show here, but tell me from your perspective how the last 3 days have played out.
I would say ever since Hippler's demanded an independent investigation, they couldn't get away from this case fast enough. They've done everything to make this case go away. So I don't know what that entails, but he said he was going to have an independent investigator, and all of a sudden we seemed like we were on rails to get rid of this case and make a plea deal. I mean, he's guilty. We all know he's guilty. There's more than enough evidence, but it's tough. It's tough to put a community through this, and it could be bad for reputations and business identities, and there's fallout. But this isn't the will of the victims. This is just one person making a decision, and it doesn't reflect what we were asking for.
Steve, did anybody ever call you from the prosecutor's office to just personally discuss this with you? Did anybody offer to meet with you in person to go over this potential plan?
We have meetings all the time on particularly a lot of times on Friday. No. We had this regular meeting that we have to try basically do an update of what's going on, where things are at, because Idaho is actually an amazing state where it really does care about people. We just get one or two, people who just don't care about the victims and don't care about justice, and it's easy to take the weight out. It's easy to make an excuse and say, I'm doing this for the victims, even though I've never interviewed the victims. I've never really talked to them to find out what their true feelings are. So here we are. We're stuck, and we can't get out of it. I ask your audience if anybody knows Judge Hippler, reach out to him and ask him to put his foot down and not accept this offer. It doesn't reflect.
So the defense offered it first. Yeah, obviously.
Idaho. This is not justice. We had an outsider come to our community, kill our kids in their sleep while they're getting a college education, doing everything that they should do, and we don't have the courage to hold him accountable. No plea deal. Let's go for this guy. 100%. Let's do it. And that's how this family stands.
Steve, I know that, it's no secret your daughter Kaylee was so close with Maddy Mogen, best of friends. And I know that you got to know the Mogen family as well. Have you spoken with the Mogen family, and do you know what their reaction is to this plea decision?
We actually just had a meeting with the prosecution and just tore into it, and made it clear that we were not in support of this, but we also invited other families into that, and I'll let them speak on their own that were part of that meeting, but we are in no way alone on this. Multiple families believe the same as we do, but I want to honor their abilities to speak independently and as their child. So I don't want to cross that line, but all I will say is there was no majority for this decision at all. And if they're not working for us, they're working against us, guys. I mean, we have to wake up to this. I mean, we have to hold people accountable. Coeur d'Alene just had a shooting where we attacked our firemen. People need to stand up to these monsters and stop freaking bowing down to them and giving them childcare. I mean, prison is nothing but adult childcare. You get free vision, you get free dental, you get free meals, you get AC, room and board, cable TV, internet access. It's ridiculous what we give our prisoners. Better than what we treat our vets. Our vets coming back from war with missing limbs.
So true.
This is unacceptable.
They can't even get mental help.
Shannon Gray, I'm going to ask you to step in as well.
Yes.
Judge Hippler, Steve just mentioned Judge Hippler in this case.
Steve
I have to ask you
Goncalves
as a matter of
is
law, would Judge Hippler have been
stellar.
fully integrated into this deal plan? Meaning, this is not a surprise to Judge Hippler. Is he going to have to weigh this and then rule from the bench as to whether he'll accept it or not? Or is it a fait accompli by the time they get this far down the road that the judge will accept it?
Well, I think a few weeks ago, Judge Hippler, talked about had there been an offer at all on this case. I think he mentioned it in the courtroom, and maybe that sparked something with the defense and the prosecution. I'm not sure. That being said, with a plea like this, it's with the life sentences and it's agreed upon by the state and the defense. There's small modifications sometimes that they can make to the sentencing regarding, restitution, some other things like that. But if the state presents sufficient facts to the judge or a plea of guilty to the counts, normally judges will accept that, and they'll let the defense know if they're not going to accept that ahead of time. So I would suspect that the plea will go through on Wednesday, and then they'll set over sentencing for a few weeks, and so the victims can be present to read victims' impact statements, etc.
So, Steve, I covered a case where the defendant was so overwhelmingly guilty according to the evidence, and it was a death penalty case in Arizona, and that jury voted guilty, and they did not vote for death penalty. So that defendant, Jodi Arias, sits in a prison in Arizona as we speak, and she had multiple access to appeals. I wonder if there's any solace at all in knowing that this can't happen to him at this point. There can be no appeal. There can be not one squeak.
I'm going to do a live on my experience in the jail system. Like, you guys would be shook. You guys would be shook. They do. A lot of you are saying vets, we treat our vets and Native Americans worse than the people in prison. Dude, so true. The VA and so many more things leave good people hooked, and we're giving a murderer these freedoms. Exactly. Thank you, Dateline. Dude, what does an impact statement really do if he doesn't say what he did? I know. And people are like, he's going to go up there on the stand and the judge is going to be like, sir, please tell us the truth about what you did. Like, again, he's not going to stand up there. You have to understand the psychology behind who he is as a person, a psychopath. He's not going to stand up there and just be like, this is what I did. Okay, there, you guys all know the facts. Night, night. Like, no. He's never, we're never, that's why, that's why I titled my life that. We will never know the truth. Sadly, we will never know. Just like with the Chris Watts case. Never know.
Bryan
Never
Kohberger, after he accepts
Disgusting.
that sentence at the end of this month.
Yeah, I don't know what
much
impact statements do,
what
Kernodle.
happened in Arizona, where there is always a chance the jury does not choose death. Is there any solace in the fact that you will at least have him silenced and there will be no appeals?
Absolutely zero. None. Could be no farther than how we believe. I
No
want my
appeal.
community support.
That doesn't matter.
I want that jury to make the decision, not Thompson. Not some.
Okay. Here's the good thing. He has no right to appeal. Okay, but he can sit there and do phone calls and write a book. So then what? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, are you catching on? It's a death penalty state. How many murders does someone? Yeah, if the death penalty in Idaho does not define Kohberger, like, what do you have to do to get it there? Like, I am curious. What do you have to do? Like, eat babies? Because it's crazy that he just slaughtered 4 college students, slashed their throats, freaking said he went stargazing. And then, like, do you see what I'm saying? This is crazy. Aren't there laws that prohibit making a profit? Yeah, they can. But like I said, his family can get the money. His family can be out here side hustling for him. Sure, Kohberger can't get GoFundMe's. Bryan Kohberger can't have nasty wives like Wade does that are obsessed with him. Okay, fine, but he's still going to be able to email. He's still going to have access to a tablet. His parents can make money and make it their own, and then buy him all the commissary. He gets all the Kit Kats, all the honey bars, all the flavors of Top Ramen, baby. He will get them all because this is going to make him still famous. Students didn't get the chance to have a plea deal for their lives. Thank you, Authane. Very true. Very true. He's literally going to be stuffing his face with all the honey buns. How is that justice? All the honey buns. He's going to be making a freaking Laffy Taffy. He's going to be drinking that Pruno. He's going to be getting drunk in there, probably. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying. This is just what I think. This is just what I've seen. And that's just, it's crazy to me. This is not justice. This is not. I'm so upset. Okay, let's finish this.
Freaking years old deciding how my daughter's life weighs in a courtroom. That is not justice. That is not justice at all. I'll take my juries, I'll take my peers all day long. I'm sick of one man deciding or one woman deciding what a life
Steve, we are behind you here at Mellyverse.
That's how I stand on that.
We support you.
I fully understand how you feel. And none of us can understand what you're going through. None of us is walking in your shoes. And I'm just glad to give you this platform to be able to say these things publicly. And I'm also glad that you got the support of Shannon Gray, who's just been a rock for you. Thank you to the both of you. Steve, please give Christy and your kids our love. We will still be here. We'll be here Wednesday. We'll be here at the end of the month. And we'll be here for you after that as well.
Well, thank you, and you've always been hard work.
See why I love her? She's great.
We've always tried to partner with people who put that extra effort, but we couldn't pick the prosecution. We inherited them, but everywhere we go, we partner with people like you who are relentless and tireless, and they just chase down the truth. And I really appreciate that's what you brought to our case. So much. And when people reach out to me, I'll tell them that this is a network that you can partner with and understand that they'll be there to the very end.
That part, saying.
God bless you, Steve. I think we just lost Shannon, but I'm sending you my my deepest love and wishes for some peace in all of this, and we'll talk soon.
Look at his face. You think this lovely man is such a good father is ever going to get justice? No. That's really, really, really sad. We're going to watch a couple clips. And by the way, if you're just popping in, thank you for being here. This is just an after dark. If you don't know the difference, please get caught up. No, I'm just kidding. We cover true crime usually mostly during the day. At night we hang out. It's a little more adult rated over here, if you know what I mean. Mellyverse does stand with Steve. There is no justice in a plea. The judge could probably restrict the public engagement of his sentence. You know what? The judge said no cameras in the courtroom for tomorrow. There you go. There you go. What is wrong with this picture? There's court tomorrow for hearing, which we will catch tomorrow night because I can't catch it during the day. And it's going to be the plea hearing. And I think the Associated Press are the only ones who's going to be in the courtroom allowed, I think, taking pictures or reporting. So why is this so hush-hush? Yeah, please get caught up. Please watch the playlist. Please support your girl. We get an attorney. I like that. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Moving on. Okay, we're going to watch this other clip. I have so many that I've been wanting to play just because yo girl's been busy. Breaking. Okay, we're going to watch this one. Why are they protecting him? Why are they protecting him? Why did they just give him life after he took 4? I genuinely want to know that, like, whether you're religious, spiritual, whatever the hell you are, like, how is that okay? Like, is it okay? Because to me, in all aspects of who I've been in the past, the person that I have been, my morals, my beliefs, like, I still can't get to that conclusion of he should get to live. Like, I don't, and you know what? Some cases I'm like, you know what? Whatever. He can go to jail or get the death penalty. So I don't think we're the right people to make the decision of like who gets to live and who gets to die. You know, wah, wah, wah. There's someone has whatever higher power, God, et cetera, et cetera. But like, I feel like 4 people one night under 20 minutes, I think it was, or like 18. Am I wrong? I can't remember. I can't get around it. I think he should have got the death penalty. I'm with Steve Goncalves. I don't get it. I don't get it either. I think the leak for Dateline was someone on the state. That's why they wanted to hush hush and close it off real quick. Close the case. I could see that. We should all say a prayer tonight that the judge denies a plea deal and says this goes to trial. This should be like a Karen Reed movement. Like, we should have a Bryan Kohberger movement. Like, people need to speak up, write whoever you have to write, the DA. I don't know. Like, this should definitely go to trial. I think it should be the people who make that decision of whether he gets to live or die, and not the justice system, not the prosecutors, not the defense team. Like, what is the justice system if it's not even being used here in a sense of like the people, we the people? Like, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I can't believe we're not going to see this case go to trial. I just will never get over that. I'll never get over it. Not because I'm just like a true crime, freak, but because like, I don't want the DP, but I want to hear a jury of exactly Kat Randall, and spill all the evidence. Give us all the documents. Why is that shit being sealed and kept away from the public? Why is no cameras allowed tomorrow? Like, just one Associated Press, and they can only do like pictures of, I don't even think they can take pictures inside of the courtroom. I don't know what they get some deal. You know what? I thought I had it. Okay, so tomorrow, 11 a.m., Judge Hippler, Ada County, all parties and counsels are required to be present. And then there was another document. They forget what it's called. It's like court pool or something. And they can only get, I'm going to read it to you guys right now. Sharing the screen. I wasn't going to read this document, but I have it, baby. So let's just read it real quick. A little quickie for you. Yeah? Okay. Don't be dirty. Okay, let's see. I know what you guys were thinking. I know what you were thinking. Okay, just kidding. So this says, I'm not kidding. Okay, Idaho, Bryan Kohberger, we know, filed today. The court received multiple requests by various media outlets to video record the change of plea hearing scheduled for July 2nd, tomorrow. A live stream of the proceedings will be provided by the court on its media streaming account. Oh, my bad. Therefore, the various requests by media outlets to independently video record the proceedings are denied. So they can only watch it from the court stream. Yeah. Call the DA. Yeah, call the DA. Let's show up at their house. Just kidding. Don't do that. The old argument has always been we don't want any people receiving the death penalty. There's a problem with it ultimately. Exactly, Dodge. Aren't they worried that their case is so weak? Dude, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Okay, let's continue reading this document. To ensure that the quality still image are available from the hearing, the court will permit a pooled side still photographer to be present at the hearing. The Associated Press having been the first to request still photography access, it will be permitted to provide such coverage as pooled media resource. The permission to provide such coverage is contingent on AP agreeing to act as a pooled resource for such photographs for all media entities. The photographer may only take photographs from the location within the courtroom assigned to them by court personnel. Photographs may not be taken of any victims or members of the family members of any family members of the victims inside the courthouse. It is so ordered today. Hippler. You know, Hippie, I think we got some questions. Like at first I was kind of liking him, and now I have questions. I have concerns and questions I would like to express to Hippie. Let him know. Melly, no, don't do that. Anyways, so that was the document dropped today. That was it. That's pull it right from the docket, baby. Right to your front door. Okay, let's see. Let's watch this. This is from Law and Crime. We know I love them. This is going to give us all the deets.
4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home is going to plead guilty. That's according to several new reports, and one family of one of the victims is confirming that information, and they are not happy. I have all of the details in this breaking episode of Crime Fix.
Shout out to Ashley Banfield and Anjanette Levy. Those are two people I really like. You know, I used to like Court TV. I do still like Court TV. I ain't hating. But, you know, we have a relationship. So, I don't know.
Welcome to Crime Fix.
I'm petty about
Anjanette
it.
Levy. We have breaking news in the case of Bryan Kohberger and the murder of those 4 University of Idaho students. Bryan Kohberger has apparently agreed to plead guilty to 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary for the murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle in exchange for the death penalty being taken off the table in this case. News started circulating about this on social media earlier today. And then the Goncalves family, the family of Kaylee Goncalves, they confirmed this information in a Facebook post, and they are not happy about it. Take a look. The Goncalves family said, "It's true. We are beyond furious at the state of Idaho. They have failed us. Please give us some time. This was very unexpected. We appreciate all of your love and support. #heartbroken, Kaylee Jade forever." Now, this news comes as Bryan Kohberger was preparing for trial. This was a death penalty case, of course. The state of Idaho was pursuing the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger since 4 students had been murdered. It was a horrific case. It shocked the world. It also shocked the small town of Moscow, Idaho. Bryan Kohberger had been maintaining his innocence in these murders up until now. DNA linked him to the crime scene. A single spot of DNA linked him to the crime scene. It was found on the inner snap of a K-bar knife sheath. That knife sheath was left next to the leg of Madison Mogen. Madison Mogen was one of the 4 victims, a beautiful, beautiful young woman, a blonde beauty found in her bed, stabbed to death next to her best friend, Kaylee Goncalves. Ethan Chapin, the boyfriend of Xana Kernodle, she was found stabbed to death as well, as was Ethan. Ethan was found in Xana's bed, and Xana was found on the floor in her bedroom. 2 roommates survived, and they have been the subject of much speculation and harassment, but hopefully that ends now. News of this guilty plea comes right after Judge Hippler, the judge presiding over the case in Ada County, denied Bryan Kohberger's request to continue the trial. He wanted to delay it because of pretrial publicity. There's an Amazon Prime docuseries coming out next month, along with a book and other materials that might be coming out as well. There was also a massive leak of evidence to Dateline. So we're going to be following up on this for you in the days and weeks ahead. This is a Law and Crime legal alert. If you've received defense team, they're simply not ready for trial. She talked about this at a hearing last week.
Looking through the history of this case shows that the defense has met challenges and difficulties along the way, but has been dedicated in meeting all of the deadlines. We have talked about discovery issues in this courtroom before, and that in large part brings us to need a continuance. 68 terabytes of information is a huge amount of information. There have been 23 requests for additional discovery over the span of 2.5 years and 7 motions to compel. When I say that this doesn't come as a surprise, that this comes from the record, I would direct the court to look back to May of 2023 and June of 2023, and our second motion to compel. Included in that was what was known as Exhibit A from the defense, and that depicted how we were receiving discovery. So this is not a new issue. This is something that's been coming up for a long time. We were receiving discovery, but it was such that you would get a file that would say hundreds of photographs, hundreds of pages of reports, each having to be looked at individually to know what was there and then organized.
Taylor has talked
And you know
before
what?
about receiving
I do
68.
understand that. Like, I do think that the family is going to get spared, like having to see all of that, but I think they also have the right to see that. And I also think, like I said, will we get all the evidence, all those documents? Like, will we get it? Who knows?
Terabytes of discovery.
Okay, and you want to know something else? So there was a hearing for the witnesses that happened. Was it yesterday or today? I don't know exactly. It was maybe yesterday, not sure. Don't come for me. But there was a witness hearing for this trial, and then all of a sudden the plea deal is in effect. Could it have been that the witnesses didn't want to testify and Bryan, no, I think no one wanted to testify for Bryan. So I think maybe that also kind of pushed this to actually happen, the plea deal.
From the prosecution, but the prosecution says much of that is irrelevant. Then Taylor pointed to the media coverage and the Dateline episode that aired last month with information that hadn't been known to the public previously. Dateline claimed Kohberger searched pornography about forcing sex on women who were sleeping, that he searched Google for serial killer Ted Bundy, and that he also searched for news about the murders and his name. Dateline also aired selfies Kohberger took where he wore all black.
Everything that happens in this case continues to be talked about, and this court has a duty, a responsibility to make sure that Mr. Kohberger receives a fair trial. That comes from Shepard versus Maxwell, 384 U.S. 333. And a continuance may be the way that the court can best protect Mr. Kohberger. That comes from Patton versus Yount, 467 U.S. 1025. In addition to what is going on with what happened with the Dateline episode, that's not all. There's a book set to be released just a few weeks from now to be followed by a docuseries on Amazon Prime.
And this is it. What is all that there's out there? They have just now officially pushed that away. The opportunity for us to know and the family to know, we just lost that chance. We're still going to get, the Prime movie and the book or whatever, but now we're going to hear it coming from Bryan in his terms. And that's disgusting.
There's a claim that there's inside sources that provide information in this case. At the very least, the moment we start attempting to select a jury in this case, those things are going to be on everybody's TV, everybody's social media feed, and some of the very witnesses that will be expected to testify will be taking part in the docuseries at least, and maybe noted in the book. That is in and of itself an exceptional reason for us to have a continuance to let those things play out for a while.
Now, Judge Hippler had suggested last month that he wanted an investigation into the person or people who leaked this information. We'll have more on that in a bit. Ann Taylor also said she needed more time to investigate Bryan Kohberger's life history to prepare for a possible penalty phase. The new special prosecutor on the case responded to that and Taylor's other arguments.
We have a life history for the defendant. The defense has amassed significant materials. And I thought we were going to be solely talking about the mitigation case that still needs to be developed. That is not a basis for a continuance. And to the extent there are ongoing discovery from the state that Ms. Taylor alluded to, I can represent that most of what was just turned over was our investigators speaking with witnesses that the defense has disclosed. So that's the nature of that discovery, is us responding. As Ms. Taylor said, people will continue to talk about this case. The issue is whether the court, using the procedures it has established, or maybe even modifying them as the court wants to, can seat a panel of impartial jurors. The Supreme Court of Idaho has found that despite widespread publicity, even on the day of jury selection, that is possible. That is possible in this case, despite the challenges.
I do have a live on this whole hearing too. If you guys are interested, I have a Bryan list.
The
playlist.
other thing I would mention with respect to the publicity is that it puts us at the whim of the media. Every time there's a breaking story, every time there's a new book or a new documentary, are we going to continue the trial indefinitely? And that seems to be the danger in what the defense is asking for. We call it a perpetual continuance, and we haven't seen a proposal about when this trial could take place. If there's a continuance, what seems to be the strategy here is just to delay. And that leads me to, I think, the other point that Ms. Taylor raised, which was to say that this shouldn't be a surprise. It is a surprise to us that a motion to continue was made so late in the game.
So let's get into what Judge Hippler had to say about Ann Taylor's arguments about not being able to review discovery. Hippler wrote, "The court found defendants' complaints of being unable to meaningfully review discovery entirely unconvincing, pointing out that counsel struggled to articulate in any meaningful way what evidence, let alone relevant evidence, counsel had been unable to review over the past 2+ years, and why efforts to facilitate discovery review were not made long ago through this court and or the resource judge." Then Hippler addressed the whole issue about needing more time to conduct a life history investigation. Hippler wrote, "The assertion that counsel needs the continuance to conduct an exhaustive and comprehensive dive into defendant's life history for additional mitigation evidence overstates the extent of his counsel's constitutional obligations. Counsel's investigation into mitigation evidence must be reasonable. The Idaho Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court hold that defense counsel is not required to investigate a defendant's entire life in order to present constitutionally sufficient mitigation evidence." We're going to get to what Judge Hippler had to say about the defense's argument about pretrial publicity here in just a moment, but I want to bring in Josh Ritter. He is a former prosecutor at the LADA's office, currently a defense attorney and the host of Courtroom Confidential on YouTube. Check it out. Josh, your initial thoughts on Judge Hippler denying the defense request for a continuance?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, one, we got kind of a preview of this last week when the judge made those comments in court that, listen, I haven't made up my mind. I haven't written a decision, but I would encourage everyone to go ahead and plan as though we were starting trial on the same date that he indicated earlier. And the reasons that he give are kind of the reasons we all suspected. Yes, the defense wants more time, but they haven't really articulated a reason for that. It's one thing to say, we need more time to prepare. Well, you've been saying that for quite some time. What makes this different? What changed? How are you somehow prejudiced? How is this somehow going to affect your case? And the judge said that essentially that was not articulated enough for him to feel that it was overriding to the concerns for justice, because the people and the victims in this case have a right to have this case heard too. They don't need to have to wait an endless amount of time for this to come to trial. So I think the judge did the right thing, and it's also not surprising.
That's interesting to me that you think he did the right thing, because Ann Taylor kept saying, this is a death penalty case. This is a capital case. Death is different. We need more time to investigate things. But I want to put up on the screen everything the judge says they've got. They've got all of this stuff they've looked into, military records of his father, his pre-K or kindergarten records through his PhD records. They've interviewed former teachers, a former boxing coach, all of these different people. I mean, there's a lot that they've investigated so far. And the judge is basically saying, in order to protect his rights, you don't have to investigate every nook and cranny of his life. It just has to be reasonable. And you've done a lot of investigation already. They were saying, we have to do more. There's these red flags. And the judge is like, no, there aren't. There really aren't any red flags.
Yeah, it's not a small point to say it's a death penalty case. And of course, it has been treated differently. And I think the judge has given a lot of deference to the defense in this case. But how far does that go? It's not endless. It's not an endless amount of continuances just because it's a death penalty case. And I think he's been hearing this same argument from Ann Taylor for a while now. And he's starting to go, listen, we're talking about going close to 3 years now since the murders took place. That is a tremendous amount of time. Yes, this is a very serious case. Yes, it's a case serious both to the victims, their families, and to the defendant. He's looking at the possibility of the death penalty. But at the core of it, if you really think about it, this case is not all that complicated. What I mean by that is this. We're not talking multiple defendants. We're not talking several different crimes that took place on several different days, where we might expect the complexity to grow exponentially. We're talking about one evening. Now, the loss of life was tremendous, but it all took place on one evening by one perpetrator. That is something that, as far as factually, you can get your head wrapped around in pretty short order. Getting close to 3 years is plenty of time for that. Yes, to your point, they could probably spend another year investigating and trying to turn over every unturned stone. But eventually the judge has to say enough's enough. It's time to go.
And he also said,
I don't know. I think, I don't even care. I think there was enough evidence on Bryan Kohberger. I'm ending that. I want to play a clip by Friends of Murdered Victims detail the tragic day for the first time. Just a 5-minute clip. I can't even believe this. I'm shook. I'm shook.
Idaho College murders case. The trial date is now set. This morning, close friends of the victims are telling their story for the first time on GMA. 𝐁𝐞 Whitworth sat down with them. Good morning, 𝐁𝐞.
Yeah, George, good morning to you. Hunter Johnson and Emily Allant were two of the first people to arrive at the King Road house that November morning. These are the friends who prompted the 911 call. Their actions described by other families as heroic. But for them, it was a morning that changed everything. And they're speaking out for the first time about what they want people to remember about their friends. It's not just about how they died, but about how they lived.
You know, you see the world in pure innocence, and that all gets ripped away from you in one phone call. That's just the day that changed it all.
This morning, for the first time, the best friends of Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle speaking out about that November day when they discovered Ethan, Xana, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Mogen brutally murdered in an off-campus home.
I don't think anyone expects anything like that ever in their life to happen.
Hunter Johnson and his girlfriend Emily Allant now telling their story in a new Prime Video docuseries, One Night in Idaho, The College Murders.
We were a big group of friends. Why would you target those four?
Emily says she and Xana were inseparable.
We were attached at the hip probably the first day that we met. Yeah, we just clicked immediately. We were same personalities, I feel like.
I love it when people talk about Ethan and Xana sort of being like male and female versions of each other.
Oh, it's very much true. They were the same person.
Hunter and Emily say the fall weekend started like any other with a big football game. The friends snapping this photo that Saturday.
It was a normal weekend for us, just hanging out with our friends.
The next morning, Emily says Dylan, one of the surviving roommates, called her concerned, asking her and Hunter to come over.
In the documentary, you tell the story of really not feeling alarmed when Dylan called you.
I joked around with her on the phone. You know, it's something you would never expect.
It's November, so I had shorts on, slides on. Like, I wasn't prepared to obviously stay there. I was just going over to check, see what's going on. I would say as soon as you get there, you know something's wrong.
Hunter was the first person to arrive to King Road to discover what happened. Their friend Josie Louderin, who was also there, describing the moments in the docuseries.
As soon as I stepped in the house, I was like, oh, something is so not right. Like, you could feel it almost. Hunter was ahead of me, and Emily immediately was pushed out, and Hunter was like, get out, somebody call 911.
You hear Hunter on the 911 call telling the girls there was an unconscious person protecting them from the graphic details.
Is she breathing?
No.
How did you remain so calm
in that moment?
Truly, in my heart, I believe God was with me that day, and he gave me the strength to get through that day.
As authorities entered the home, the friends say they were told to sit outside, waiting for hours with little information.
We watched the ambulance come and we watched them immediately leave. So I think that was a hard part for sure.
That second you realize there's no one to be saved.
Right.
Oof.
Their best friends inexplicably murdered. Not knowing who was responsible or why, they feared for their own safety.
We just left to get away, be safe.
Yeah.
Is our
You
mindset.
didn't feel safe?
No.
In the nearly 7 weeks it took police to arrest a suspect, Emily, Hunter, and surviving roommates Dylan and Bethany became the targets of online sleuths and social media attacks.
Lots of threats, people saying I should confess to murdering them. I felt like I was less than a person in that point in my life.
On December 30th, 2022, police arrested then 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger. To Emily and Hunter, he was a complete stranger. The murder trial set to begin in August. His attorneys say he's innocent.
Does justice lie in a conviction?
I don't think there's going to ever be any justice.
I mean, yeah, we can have justice for the conviction of it, but I don't get to still hang out with Ethan. So
they still don't get to.
They don't have a son. They don't have a daughter anymore.
They say they hope people remember who their friends were
so
beyond
sad.
the headlines.
Who they are as people is so much more than the Idaho 4, and they shouldn't be known as the Idaho 4, and they shouldn't be attached to, the name of who did that to them. And I just think
unfortunately
that,
it will
hopefully
be.
one day they're just seen as who they are and not what happened to them.
Yeah, Emily went on to tell me they are so much more than their last day. Now, they joined Ethan's family to speak in this docu-series, One Night in Idaho, The College Murders, which premieres July 11th on Prime Video. Also, keep in mind, guys, we're closely monitoring a Pennsylvania court today where several potential witnesses for the defense will learn if they need to testify in Idaho when this trial is set to start in August.
So that's the hearing that I was telling you guys about earlier. There was a hearing with the witnesses, and I'm wondering, how much that hearing played a role in this plea deal, because was there people that were going to testify against Bryan because of the fallout? Did the victims that night really want to testify? I'm sure that all plays a role in this. They're probably being judged for not being able to be more help. Imagine having to deal with that knowing you're innocent. It's so sad. Okay, I'm going to play another clip. This is a 3-minute clip of a family member. Idaho College murders, family of murdered victim talks for the first time. Sorry, let me pull it on. Let me pull it up. I'm going to play the call too. I want to play the 911 call. I think we should take a drive down memory lane.
On the Idaho College murders case after Bryan Kohberger
I'll make myself
guilty
bigger.
of all counts. Shortly before we learned of the plea deal, Xana Whitworth sat down with the family of one of the victims, Ethan Chapin. I want to go back to Xana in Boise. Good morning, Xana.
Yeah, George, good morning. So the last time that Jim and Stacy Chapin saw their son Ethan alive, it was Parents' Weekend at the University of Idaho. They told me they left full of pride. Their 3 children, their triplets, were living their best lives. But that feeling was short-lived. It wasn't long after they learned that Ethan had been murdered in a quadruple homicide that thrust the town of Moscow into chaos. And this morning, for the first time, the Chapin family tells the story of how they...
I think Alsane says the call is still sus, but no, I think that's what I mean by we'll never know. I think there was other things going on too. Don't come for me just because I have an opinion. The government prosecutors determine whether the death penalty is appropriate and enough evidence exists to convict, right? I agree. Yeah.
Stayed afloat.
We just decided maybe it was best to tell our story of Ethan literally one time. He deserves it. He deserves our story of him.
This morning, as the Idaho murder suspect prepares to accept a plea deal. The family of Ethan Chapin speaking publicly together for the first time since Ethan, his girlfriend Xana Kernodle, and her roommates Madison Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves were brutally murdered in an off-campus home at the University of Idaho.
I miss him every day. When you lose your son at 20, you know, it's different. It's a different loss. And I miss him every single day. And I always will.
Ethan, a triplet with his siblings, Hunter and Maisie, all attending the University of Idaho together. Hunter and Maisie and their parents, Jim and Stacy, now telling their story in a new Prime Video docuseries, One Night in Idaho, The College Murders. Remembering
I wish we could watch that together.
6'4", larger-than-life brother and son.
We played every sport together. Every time we went in the car, it was together. Partied together. There was never a dull moment.
The night before Ethan was killed, Maisie brought him to her sorority formal. She now cherishes the text he sent her before bed.
This is going to make me cry.
I think he said, "Dog, come hang out. We all want you here." And I said, "I'm going to bed." And then he said, "Love you." And I didn't even respond to that. I think I was asleep by then.
And the "I love you" kind of stood out, though.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Hunter, who pledged Sigma Chi with Ethan, says the next morning, a friend at the fraternity woke him up saying the police were at Xana's house.
Hunter Johnson came up to me and said, I was like, "Where's Ethan and Xana?" And he's like, "They're not here anymore." So, "What do you mean they're not here anymore?" He's like, "I think they were murdered last night."
Hunter was forced to call his family with the news, his parents in disbelief.
It drives me crazy because I've always wanted to protect my family. And there's really nothing there that I could have done. You know, instantly he was taken.
A suspect, Bryan Kohberger, arrested nearly 7 weeks later. With a bit of relief, the Chapins shifting their focus to their son's legacy, getting tattoos to honor him.
We all benefited from having Ethan in our lives for 20 years.
Oh, that reminds me of
It's a tremendous
the
loss.
Petito family.
Now, the Chapins told me that they brought Ethan's ashes and his red Jeep home to one of their favorite places in Priest Lake, Idaho, where they live like Ethan every.
That's really sad. And that reminds me of the Petito family, who we love and adore here as well on Milliverse. They got tattoos too, matching tattoos. Okay, there's one more family clip that I want to play. And then we're going to play, I want to play the 911 call again real quick. Just for old time's sake. If he gets up, he won't get out. Did Hunter have to make the call? Yeah, that was Hunter in the interview too. We're going to listen to it. Yeah, we can do it on Discord. We just got to get everybody there. Let's listen to the call first before we proceed. It's been a while since we've heard it on the last, I think I did it on when we were deep diving this on another live, right? Like, I feel like it would be worse for him in prison without parole. Nah, I think he should have got the death penalty, dude. I'm sorry, 4 lives? Nah, that's a demon. If you're not familiar, yeah, that's crazy. No.
Breaking news right now. I'm Phil Lipoff. ABC News has obtained those dramatic 911 calls from the King Road killings. 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death. This was back in November of 2022. I want to get right to ABC News live anchor Kayna Whitworth, who has been on this story, Kayna, since the very beginning. What are we learning from these newly released 911 calls?
Yeah, Phil, so as you mentioned here, these murders happened in November of 2022. And for the very first time now, we are hearing the audio recording of this 911 call. Now, important to remember here that this 911 call has long been a point of concern here because it was not placed for nearly 8 hours after authorities believe those 4 students were stabbed to death in that off-campus home. And listening to this call.
And that's a thing I'll never understand. And you guys can judge me if you want. What happened in those 8 hours? Like, I'm sorry. This is kind of like the Brian Laundrie. Who were we just talking about? Like the family keeping secrets. One of them called their parents. We don't know what happened there. Brian called his parents. We don't know what happened there. Like, Do you see what I'm saying? Like, why 8 hours? Because they were drunk? I mean, being drunk can only get you in so much trouble, right? I never bought this. No. It's fishy. It's fishy. Do I think the roommates had anything to do with it? Nope. Do I think it could be possible? Yep. Don't come for me. Don't come for me. I don't know. And like, I don't know. I just put myself in that place. I'm like, would I call my dad if I just saw someone on the floor with the throat slashed? Would I call my dad, or would I just pass out, or would I call the police? I think I would call the police and then my dad. I don't know. Something seems weird. Okay, let's listen to these calls.
It reveals a chaotic and desperate scene, and we want to play some of it for you now.
Emergency.
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, we gotta go check. She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Now, at one point you hear on that call the surviving roommate who told authorities she saw a man clad in black with bushy eyebrows inside that home. She is heard on that call along with several.
And will we hear from Bryan why he spared that roommate? Absolutely not. That fool's not going to go up there being, you know, an honest, genuine, ethical man. Like, this is crazy.
Several other people, because according to authorities, they called their friends over in the morning before this 911 call was placed around 11:55, so just before noon that day. So you can hear the surviving roommate, you hear the neighbors on the call, you also at one point hear a male voice who confirms with the dispatcher that a 20-year-old identified as Xana Kernodle is not breathing. And again, 4 people are heard throughout this call. The call's about 4 minutes long. And a reminder here that Bryan Kohberger, a former PhD student.
Why would a serial killer, psychopath, narcissist leave murder 4 people brutally, leave one alive? I don't care that she saw him and it was down in the kitchen. No way. If I was a true serial killer, I would have got rid of everyone. And I speak in terms of how I think Bryan is thinking. Like, why spare the roommate? I will always question that.
Remains the only.
Not that I wanted her to
suspect in this
die.
case,
Don't
and
get
a
me
not guilty
wrong.
plea
I just
has been entered on his
4
behalf.
people,
But Phil,
leave
we've been
one
waiting to
alive.
hear this audio now for more than 2 years, and it is utterly chilling. And you can just hear the anguish throughout this call, Phil.
Absolutely painful, even just the bit you just played for us, kind of to listen to, knowing what happened in that house. Tell us a little bit more about what we know about Kohberger, the suspect.
Bryan Kohberger's defense team
I
wants
wanted to hear the
the
whole
filing
call, but I don't
here.
think this one has the whole call.
Listen to this call to know that according to authorities, the 2 surviving roommates in that home were texting each other around the time of this murder. So again, this is quickly developing and we're headed right towards that trial.
We're texting each other. His trial would likely have more questions than answers. I think we all have so many questions and answers right now. I mean, not answers, questions that we like, we'll never know. Okay, I'm gonna play maybe he wanted to leave it witness, as crazy as it seems. I see what you mean. Like, he gets gratification from knowing that there's someone out there suffering. Yeah, I get it. I don't get it.
22 will plead guilty to the murders. Bryan Kohberger is expected in court tomorrow to finalize the agreement, which will spare him the death penalty. Let's bring in CBS News' Anna Schechter. She's a senior coordinating producer of the Crime and Public Safety Unit here at CBS News. Anna, good to see you. So remind us again the details of this case and what transpired to lead to this guilty plea.
Well, 3 years ago, these 4 college students were murdered, stabbed to death in their home off campus. They were all students at the University of Idaho. And investigators found surveillance footage of a car that looked just like Kohberger's car circling around, driving by, cell phone pings. They also found a knife sheath with his DNA on it that they said matched an Amazon.com purchase of his, a knife with a sheath. So investigators and prosecutors have pulled all of this evidence together, and a trial was actually set for August. So this news that broke late last evening really has shocked folks in the community, the victims' families as well. You know, we'll talk about that in a moment, but really surprising turn of events in this case.
Yeah, so you mentioned the families are responding, and a lot of them seem to be very unhappy with what has been decided by the prosecution. What can you tell me?
That's right. Well, Kaylee Goncalves' family put out a statement saying they failed us, so talking about the prosecutors. They're so disappointed that this outcome actually doesn't seek the justice that they felt they were promised. So her family, they were looking forward to having a trial, and they were also in favor of the death penalty being on the table. But the families are Smith, our own Jonathan Vigliotti, spoke to the father of Maddie Mogen. I think we heard from him. He felt relief.
I don't know that I agree with Maddie Mogen's dad. I'm sorry. I'm not being a hater, but I don't know that I agree.
Upon getting this news.
That's just a personal opinion.
I think it's justice when you don't have to torture families that have been already through the most horrific thing they could ever imagine. And I don't want another day of this. And they're talking about decades.
So you don't want to know like what happened to your child? You don't want to know the evidence? Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, sir. That's just me.
He doesn't want another day. I think I appreciate the sentiment. And man, Benjamin Mogen looks terrible. Like I can't imagine the pain of losing a child. So
tell me how you guys feel. Do you guys want to know or no?
Or are the others
how do you feel?
Sort of subscribing to that?
How do you feel in the chat? Are you a Steve Goncalves or are you Maddie Mogen's dad? Who are you right now in the chat? Let me know.
Other families, but in cases like this, you often have victims' families disagree on what justice looks like. Every person is processing this in their own way. So this is pretty typical where you see people having differing views about what justice looks like, Vlad.
Right. All right. Anna Schechter for us. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Okay. I think I'm mad too. Yeah, I am mad. I think I just found the 911 call. I want to hear it all in entirety. I don't know why. I'm just in the mood to listen to it again. Let's see if this one plays at all.
42 seconds, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi,
and are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone. Stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is
You don't know what happened.
Currently, is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. But we have to. It's just a girl. What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
Who is that breathing like that? Is that Hunter? That was always so creepy to me.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to.
Wait, but who was that person breathing that was like, and then this man comes on the phone. Isn't this the same person? And he's like, hello, hello. So that wasn't him breathing?
Or different people.
Or was that different?
Sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
You talk to them, say. I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Hello.
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again. There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Ma'am, it's too late for a defibrillator.
Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, you have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys think about that 911 call? Do you guys watch Megyn Kelly? She's superb. I love her channel. She's so freaking good. I want to give her a big fat hug. Okay, let's watch. She did a little clip, a 13-minute clip on this Bryan Kohberger stuff, and it's really, really good. She does amazing. If you guys don't follow her, go watch her.
Away guys like Bryan Kohberger. What do you make of Steve Goncalves' strong statements against this, saying we weren't told? We found out on Friday that they might be talking to him about a plea. The next thing we got was a letter on Sunday.
Don't they teach dispatchers to be a little more empathetic? Like, I feel like the last few true crimes that we've deep dive the cases, they're so rude, right? I don't know.
With an email attachment saying it was done. We didn't have meaningful input and we don't want this.
Well, it's very sad. First of all, it is this should never happen. Frankly, Megan, you should never have such a disconnect with the family. Whether or not you do a plea or not is
Everything
a separate issue than the family being informed and being afforded an opportunity to come to court and express their views. This is squarely in what's known as Marcy's Law, or the Crime Victims Bill of Rights. And what you see in California, this is actually enshrined in the Constitution, where victims have a right to be heard and they have a right to be present for all significant proceedings. So, well, the reasons they give are good. I mean, they're well articulated. They explain the appellate process and how that goes on for years. But the disconnect of the family is a tragic element to this. Now, what's interesting is only the Goncalves family is talking, which makes me think maybe the other families were on board. But it seems like such a short period of time. The turnaround is, I'm really kind of surprised by that they apparently heard from the defense very recently, like within the last couple of days, and then they turn this thing around and the plea is supposed to get out tomorrow. Well, the Goncalves family is saying that they can't even get up there in time. So they're asking for the court to delay it, which could actually delay it, but I expect that this plea will go through.
Right, because they don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the words, "I did it," coming out of this guy's mouth. Arthur, you used to be a prosecutor. You've spent more recent years as a defense attorney. Is Bryan Kohberger, when pleading guilty, going to have to allocute in a way that would tell us everything, that would answer any of our questions? Or are we more likely to get a guilty, 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 guilty?
That's what we're getting tomorrow. Guilty, guilty.
Yeah,
guilty,
Megan, I was just involved in a case where I was representing the victims' families, and he actually went to
I said this earlier. He's not going to stand up there and be a man of God and suddenly be telling all the truth and confess his deepest, darkest sins. No, dude.
And
no one.
Even at the trial, they could see on videotape, they could see him doing it, but there's zero motive. And the family asked me, and I did go to the prosecutor and to the defense attorney and say, look, if you tell us why this happened, we'll, as the victim family, ask for less time than 25 to life, which is the maximum here in New York. And the guy refused to do so. And this family, is the anniversary of his death was yesterday. This family is guys in jail, 25 to life, but they have no idea why he was executed. And that may be the hardest thing for the family members. And it's the same thing here. It's obvious that this guy did it. But
I personally would want to know what happened to my child. I would want it to go to trial and be decided by the peers of the juries or whatever you call it. I would want to know to be able to go to sleep at night. The unknown is a disease, I think, for me, in my opinion, psychologically. I think that would ultimately get to me. Like, even if I don't know all the facts, at least I know something.
But they want to know why. I will say, though, that family members who have to sit through this.
I get it. What you don't know can't hurt you, but I don't necessarily agree with that statement all the time.
You know, there are often autopsy pictures that are shown, and you hear the description and how people died. And that's, you know, when you're a family member, you're sitting there, you're hearing about your 21-year-old gorgeous daughter and how she, you know, met her death. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm. So he's not going to have to go through it bit by bit, Matt.
No,
we're not going to.
He'll just do the on this date at this time. Were you at this location? Yes. And did you cause the death by this person? Yes. And did you cause the death by using a knife? Yes, I did. And did you?
He's going to be like, yes, by night. Someone put some money for my honey bun.
To cause the death at that time. Yes.
That's Bryan Kohberger.
That's it.
But let me ask you this, because Matt, you've dealt with these serial killers before, and I mean, I think it's fair to say that was the road this guy was on. I mean, he committed 4 in one night and was obsessed with Ted Bundy.
I absolutely think so. Yeah. I mean, this is all the hallmarks. And he's sorry, Megan. I don't want to step on
I was just going to say that these guys, these serial killers, they do like to talk. I mean, historically, they want to be celebrated. I'm sure this is another problem the family will have, whatever attention.
And I say this, I said earlier, I'm like, he's loving this. He loves it. Women, the pro-burgers that support him and want to hump him, that they're sending him money, emails, that we get the phone calls, that he gets to write a book on what he did, which could be lies, could be not, could be the truth, could be not. He could be Chris Watts, could be not. Chris Watts in there is now trying to blame everyone else, but it's like, dude, no. I agree so much with this, what they're saying in this Megyn Kelly clip.
He's likely to get for the rest of his life, but on the upside, he might actually explain why he did what he did at some point.
I don't think.
Well, there's a narcissism to these guys that is off the charts. You know, I mean, this is truly that's the psychopathic personality. It's almost a spectrum where we all like narcissism, or the narcissist is a buzzword these days on social media. But the psychopath is the extreme version of that. The problem is, Art is exactly right here. It's called a factual basis. When you do a plea, It's literally on this time with unlawful intent. I entered the home and caused the death of. It's very, very sterilized. And part of the power of these guys that you so often see is he's going to get off, I think, on the pain that he's caused those families. And you see that over and over again with serial killers like this. And I think that if I had to bet, Megan, I would bet he never says a word, because he knows that it's still inflicting some degree of suffering to the families of these poor kids, them not knowing. And again, Art is absolutely right. A lot of times the families, they just want to know the answer why. But in a case like this, I don't think any answer that Kohberger could even give would be satisfactory to anybody. He did it probably because he wanted to do it. And it's one of the great.
Hey, Luis. Anyone from LT's channel is always so welcome here. Thank you for being here. We love LT. That's Hector Bravo.
Questions in criminal law, like what makes these guys tick? What makes serial killers want to slaughter innocent people? And I'm with Art. I also do some victim representation in California. It's called Marcy's Law. And I've shared that experience with him. Like Art's exactly right. Families want that answer, but with a guy like Kohberger, they're probably just never going to get it outside of a trial, which I don't think we're going to see.
But it's interesting regarding the narcissistic part of it. He really won't be a household name the way like Casey Anthony is. And because correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, but I believe we were going to cover his trial because it was going to be televised, right? For like weeks. Yep. So when those cases get televised, Jodi Arias and Casey comes to mind. Obviously, OJ is the biggest one of all time. He would have been much more of a known guy than kind of going off quietly with a quick plea and it will be over. So it does fly in the face of it. Like if he really wanted, if this was what he wanted to do, if he become this famous dude, going through the trial is a sick thing to say, but it's a really good way to get your name out there, and that now has gone by the wayside.
So there's something interesting on this front. I'll tell you, Howard Bloom, who's been doing great work reporting on this from the beginning, sent me a note this morning saying he's hearing that a large part of the reason Kohberger cut this deal was to protect his parents. His father would have been called to testify.
No. Wouldn't he wanted to have protected his parents? Wouldn't he have thought of that before he slaughtered 4 kids? I'm sorry. Don't
about what was said during that cross-country trip they took together. You remember after the murders, the dad flew out there on, I think it was December 4th. The murders were November 22nd, overnight into the 23rd. And the dad traveled cross-country from Washington State back home to the Poconos in Pennsylvania with him. And on top of that, we learned this in the Dateline schedule, that at 6 a.m. the morning after the murders, Bryan Kohberger called his mother and spoke with her for nearly an hour.
An hour. Does this remind you of Brian Laundrie? What was said in that phone call? Oh, now we'll never know. Nope, not going to trial. There you go. Happy birthday.
It's the first time hearing it was the mother. I knew he had called home and spoke with his mom for nearly an hour. He did not want his mother to have to testify about that call, or his sister about confronting the father with her suspicions that Bryan may have done it. I don't know, Matt. I mean,
can a psychopath truly care and love for someone? I really don't believe it. In the bottom of my heart, no, I don't.
Does a sociopath, a psychopath like this have feelings for his dad or his mom? Is that possible?
We hear the term anthropomorphizing, which is when people start attributing human emotions to animals. And in a way, a guy like this, I think that what he's really worried about, Megan, is he's in Idaho and he could actually be executed for this. And I agree with Art. The evidence in this case is overwhelming. And especially those little things like those little selfies and things like that. He was going down, his defense team knew he was going down. And I think fundamentally, the psychopaths, the one human they actually care about is themselves. And I think that that's what motivated him. I don't think a guy like Kohberger actually cares about too many other people. And I think that that's a nice speculative sort of human interpretation of that. I think that he was worried about it literally in the state of Idaho's own neck more than what his family would go through. That's my take on it.
What's interesting though, and I was thinking about this morning preparing to come here. If I'm him, right? I don't like to equate myself to being him, but I would want to do some investigation as what life is like with life in prison. If it is like with the federal guys, like the World Trade Center bombers and stuff, where you're just in a cage, basically 23 hours a day, and every third day you get to go out, but the rest of the time you're in this little cage. And yeah, maybe you get a radio and you get a book. I don't know. At his age, would I want to live the next 50 or
He shouldn't get a book.
60 years like that, or would I rather prefer euthanasia? It'll take 10 years before they actually put a needle in his arm or shoot him or whatever they're going to do out there. But, you know, living in a cage is for 50 or 60 years. That's rough. I mean, I speak to criminal defense.
And that's what he just got. He doesn't get that. He's not going on death row. He will be in a prison. Shadow Dragon. Hello. Thank you for gifting. Eddie received a membership. Welcome. Thank you, Shadow Dragon. Appreciate you. Appreciate you very much.
No, it's not right. Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I would like to figure out, I would like to see if I'm him, I want to know, well, what's my life? Now, he may be going to a facility where there's college education, there's a barbershop, there's a dentist. I mean,
dear Lord.
Prisons are small communities, right? They
That's
have
the problem.
to.
You're raising a very good point, because what are we debating right now in California? Whether these Menendez brothers should be let out. They were young when this happened. They had an abusive dad. You know, like now with the benefit of all this hindsight, shouldn't we let them out of prison? And you know that when there's no death penalty, the odds of us getting in 20 years, Matt, he was young. He had autism spectrum disorder, as if that makes people murder for innocent victims, because they're already playing that card on the defense team. You know, he had some disorders where he saw visual snow. Really, there should be some sort of a mercy afforded his way. That as long as he's still breathing, that's still out there as a possibility.
Oh my God. I feel like she's in my heart, in my brain. I love her. Hope you're doing okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shadow Dragon. Wolfpack, don't release them. I agree. I'm so upset about him not getting the death penalty.
Well, you're absolutely right. You and I have talked about the Menendez brothers before, and that's exactly what we saw there. They received life without possibility of parole, and that turned out not to be life without possibility of parole. Right. So you're absolutely right, Megan. And online on this, there are a lot of conspiracy theorists that the prosecution even noted in their justification letter that they submitted publicly.
That was so weird. That was very weird.
It really is. That's the nightmare for the family.
Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress.
I don't want to hear about that.
9898.
Nope. Nope. He's probably going to be in protective custody. That's what I'm saying. He's going to eat all the honey buns, get all that stuff. No, he doesn't deserve it. Okay, we're going to watch one more clip. I'm so irritated about it. He's going to be making all them phone calls, jail phone calls, talking to his parents.
Levy, and thanks for joining me here live on YouTube. You are watching Law and Crime, and we have breaking news. Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students, well, we are hearing that he has agreed to plead guilty to murdering those 4 University of Idaho students in exchange for the state of Idaho taking the death penalty off the table. This news started kind of circulating on social media earlier this afternoon, and then the Goncalves family, the family of Kaylee Goncalves, one of those victims, confirmed that this information is indeed true. And let me tell you, they are not happy about it, not one bit. I want to put the picture of those 4 victims up on the screen. This case, let me tell you, shocked the town of Moscow, and it shocked the nation when these 4 beautiful young people, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle, were stabbed to death in their house off campus in Moscow, Idaho, back on November 13th, 2022. The 4 of them had gone to a football game. It was the homecoming game, the big game that November 12th. Kaylee had come back from Coeur d'Alene. She had moved out of her family's home, and she wasn't even supposed to be there, but she came back to the house on King Road to show off her brand new Range Rover to her lifelong best friend, Maddie, who you see there, and ended up dying, losing her life in the same bed, sleeping in the same bed as her best friend. Bryan Kohberger, this is somewhat surprising because he had maintained his innocence for so very long, saying through his attorneys that he did not commit these murders, despite the fact that his DNA was found on the inner snap of a K-bar knife sheath that was found next to the leg of Maddie Mogen. These beautiful young college kids stabbed to death in their house off campus. Maddie laying there in her bed, sleeping, minding her own business, a knife sheath found next to her after she was stabbed. And Bryan Kohberger said, I didn't do this, despite the fact.
So the knife was found next to Maddie because Maddie was the one who fought, huh? She put up a fight, I think. That's what I think.
That his Hyundai Elantra, the white Hyundai Elantra, matched the description of the car seen leaving the scene. And that DNA being on that knife sheath. I actually have one of those knife sheaths here, sitting here in my office. And we can get that and talk a little bit about that here very shortly. Okay. But first, I want to bring in Philip Dubé. Philip Dubé is a criminal defense attorney. He practiced in Los Angeles for many, many years. And Philip, thank you so much for joining me. You were court-appointed counsel. You worked as court-appointed counsel, for decades, right, in Los Angeles County. And you and I have been talking about this case for more than a year, it feels like, about what was going to happen, what could happen. I remember specifically after Judge Hippler ruled that the evidence in this case would not be suppressed. You and I specifically spoke about this possibility.
See what I mean? We have so many questions. Yes, he was stacking them. I think he was stalking them. I think he was obsessed. I think he had been lurking on them. I think he was a creep. I totally think he's a psychopath.
And about just the massive amount of evidence in this case that pointed toward Bryan Kohberger, and how you and I feel like I could pull up the clip right now, discussed how a plea agreement may be in Bryan Kohberger's best interest. So what are your thoughts about Bryan Kohberger? First of all, about the state of Idaho actually agreeing to take the death penalty off the table in exchange for Bryan Kohberger pleading guilty, because this is somewhat surprising to me, given the fact that, this is such a heinous crime, but at the same time, it's not surprising to me.
Not in the least. And frankly, I'm going to send Ann and Ashley a congratulations card. They both deserve to be 2025's all-star attorneys. They have accomplished two significant things. First of all, one of the hallmarks of any good attorney, and I tell this to clients all the time, I tell it to fellow attorneys all the time, is keep your client out of court. And what both sides have done right here is they've secured a victory, not just for the client, but on behalf of the public interest. What have they accomplished here? First of all, Bryan is not contesting these charges. He is conceding defeat. He is admitting guilt to 4 murders. He is agreeing to waive all appellate rights, but in exchange, he will be institutionalized in a 5x9 for the rest of his life. That means he has essentially spared all the witnesses, all the families, the victims next of kin, the aggravation, the trauma, and the heartache, not to mention the expense of having to go through a trial. And what if, hypothetically, the jury deadlocks and you have to retry the darn thing? You don't have to do any retrials, no appeals, no trials of original jurisdiction. It's all a done deal. And I think both sides did a fantastic job. As for Ann Taylor, I think initially, people gave her a bad rep, but she had an obligation to work up the guilt phase. And when,
no. Yeah, I agree with you, Cree. They want him on trial. Yes, I think, dude, I'm so disappointed in this outcome of this. I'm like,
she was foreclosed from proceeding in the guilt phase with the defenses she thought she had. Wrong. Then column B is you go for mitigation. And in mitigation, the issue is not whether or not your client walks, but it's one of housing. Will your client be housed in maximum security for the rest of his life, or will he be condemned to death row awaiting execution by firing squad? All of that comes to arrest. And I realize that for some of the families, it might not be the result that they wanted, but hopefully in time, as the dust settles and they realize he is gone, he will become a fixture of the Idaho Department of Corrections for eternity. They can put it behind them as well.
You know, Philip, one thing that's so interesting to me is the fact that we were talking just in the last week or so about the defense in this case wanting a continuance because the defense said, we're simply not ready. We need more time to go through the mountains of discovery in this case. We need more time to work up the mitigation. They just weren't ready. Also, we had that massive leak of evidence to Dateline that they're still, allegedly investigating. There's a special prosecutor who the judge confirmed has been appointed in some of the court documents. I'm kind of wondering to myself, this had to have been in the works. There's no way. I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I wrong that this just came about in the last few days? Or do you think it did come about in the last few days? Or has this been something that maybe has been discussed between the parties leading up to the judge's ruling on the continuance?
I think a lot of it hinged on the desires of Bryan Kohberger. Remember, in the end, he's the client. He's the one with the final say as to whether or not he wants to exercise his right.
I just told you guys this. I told you guys. Now everything from here on out is going to be on his terms. How much he wants to say, how many phone calls he wants to do. Does he want to share this? He's going to have his lawyers fight for this. Like, this is what I mean. What a freak. Yeah. Thank you, Cree. What a freaking freak.
If he's willing to waive it all, admit guilt, and take his life without parole, then so be it. That is when you take that offer to the prosecution and grovel, basically. And I've had to do it many times in my career where you have a dead-bang loser. Your client is looking at a minimum at life without parole. If you really think about it, what does the prosecution have to lose? They have essentially prevailed. They are now proving 4 counts of special circumstance murder without having to give it to a jury, without having to...
Again, where is the jury in this? And again, he's not going to live 320 years. I give no shits about the 4 life sentences. Like, that's so minimal.
Try it without having to brief it on appeal. It's just complete finality. Off he goes to prison. The matter is closed for all time. And make no mistake about it, that if and when he takes this deal and he on the record waives all appeals
tomorrow,
and behind everybody's back from behind prison walls, he files a notice of appeal or maybe a petition for writ of habeas corpus, guess what? He is back to Jump Street on all those charges. Everything will be reinstated. And if he thinks he's going to play games with the state of Idaho, he should bring it, because next time there won't be any more offers. He will get his trial, and chances are he will get the death penalty.
Just last week, I broke down how Ann Taylor wanted to push back this trial and how she said she wasn't ready. I mean, it's just amazing to me how this turn of events happened. So there was some reporting out there. Nobody knew at the time whether or not it was true. There was some reporting out there about maybe Bryan Kohberger's mother didn't want him to take a plea deal. We have no clue if that was true or not.
I know, Chris.
Do you think maybe this is something he talked to his family about? Because he had to have signed off on this.
Yes.
If he spoke to his family about it, it means that he was on a recorded call from...
And I'm sorry, his parents are just as much as a coward as he is.
Prison walls.
I said it.
Those conversations are not privileged. So anything that he would have said to mom, dad, or any other relative or friend would be recorded, and it could come into evidence. And if he said something like, Mom, I think I want to take the deal. Mom, I want to plead guilty. Mom, don't be upset at me, but I really did do this. I need to resolve this. And then for whatever reason, the deal fell through, that call's coming into evidence. And that's a classic example of why you don't talk when you're on the phone about your case while in custody. But there's really no way to know whether or not he spoke to his parents. But my instincts tell me that the conversations were really between Bryan and the defense team, because ultimately they're the ones who guide him and navigate him through this sort of abyss, through this Byzantine sort of pathway to justice. And I'm telling you, I really believe that Ann Taylor earned her keep this time. She is sparing her client the death penalty.
We talked about the evidence in this case so many times and tried to give Bryan Kohberger the benefit of the doubt. So that is something I think we tried to do, but the evidence appeared to be just incredibly overwhelming. Even giving him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I'm going to go over the evidence one more time. You know, at least one of the most damaging or most damning pieces of evidence was his DNA found on this part of the K-bar knife sheath right here. This inner snap, that's where it was found.
Yeah.
And so
and by the way, Ann Jeanette, you can bet they had it tested by their own independent lab and they couldn't refute it.
Yeah,
So,
most certainly. You know that they did.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that right there is such a damaging piece of evidence that, you know, that that something had to, it's such a damaging piece of evidence. I don't know how they were going to contest it. Their own experts said that it was his DNA. Nobody thought that it wasn't his DNA. They were going to have to either say the sheath was planted or that somebody else put it there. Plus you had the car to contend with. You know, the vehicle description, the FBI saying this is more than likely, you know, this is the car we're looking for. And it was his car. You know, you had the black clothing, the balaclava, you have the Amazon searches for the K-bar knife and sheath. You had all of these different things. And it was just, it was too much. I think it would have been too much for them to overcome. And Ann Taylor in court at times has seemed incredibly defeated.
Exactly. And remember, all she was hoping for at this point was prevailing in the penalty phase. So if you really think about it, she did prevail without having to show a jury that the aggravators were outweighed by the mitigators, if you will. She doesn't have to prove it. The prosecution doesn't have to prove anything. The only thing that both sides are conceding is that he is not getting death. But if you really think about it, it is still a victory. He will never, ever be released or re-enter society again. He is off the streets for all time.
I don't know that I care about that, really.
I want to talk to you now, Philip, about the families in this case. The most vocal of the families has been the Goncalves family. Kaylee Goncalves' family, her parents, Steve Goncalves, and his wife, Christy Goncalves, they've been incredibly vocal. They wanted the death penalty in this case. And I want to share my screen and show you what they had to say about this. They confirmed that this news was indeed true. I want to make clear, too, to our viewers that the courts are not confirming any information about whether or not there's going to be a hearing. There's information out there that, you know, that he will be changing his plea on Wednesday. But the courts are not confirming that. They're saying they'll have more information tomorrow. So that tells you something's going on.
I need to find out, can he change his mind? I said it at the beginning of the live. I'm like, can he go back and forth? Like, can he be like, never mind, I'm not pleading guilty later? Like, he shouldn't be allowed to do that. Off the streets, could be leaving him. Yeah. I just
saying, oh no, that's not,
you better not be able to do that.
So we know something is happening. But this is the Goncalves family page. This is where they keep people up to speed and up to date. And as I mentioned, they've been incredibly vocal. They've wanted the death penalty for Bryan Kohberger. They wanted a trial. They've made it clear many times that they did not want a plea agreement, even if it meant avoiding a trial and having the death penalty taken off the table. And they posted on Facebook earlier tonight, "It's true. We are beyond furious at the state of Idaho. They have failed us. Please give us some time. This was very unexpected. We appreciate all of your love and support. #heartbroken. #Kaylee."
Yeah, he gives up the right to appeal, but is there a way around that? I feel like with this freaking broken justice system, there's a way around that.
Jade
I don't know.
forever.
I'm a lawyer.
So
it should be though.
They really are upset. How does a family deal with that, and how do prosecutors go ahead and go with a plea deal like this when at least one of the families is opposed to it?
Well, first of all, I look to law, right? Everything that prosecutors and defense attorneys do, and certainly judges, is circumscribed by state and federal law. The law does not say that victims and victims' families are a party to the prosecution. What they are is they are included in the conversations. They are sort of incorporated into discussions. They're kept apprised of all the
Apparently, Steve Goncalves does not agree.
Proceedings, what is pending, what's going on, if something is calendared in court, if there is restitution that could be outstanding and owed, that type of stuff, so that they're not left in a lurch and left in the dark as to what's going on under that Marsy's Law, we call it. They have a Bill of Rights. However, they don't get to control the charges, and they don't get to control the outcomes, particularly in the state of Idaho. So what you do to comfort them is you include them in the conversations and you explain to them why they are settling. And if we're honest, if we're all really honest, it is possible that a jury could have deadlocked on penalty. Remember, there was quite a bit of litigation and workup done on Bryan that he is living on the autism spectrum. And there could be one juror out there just
eyes are stuck. I rolled them so hard.
Who could actually find that to be a significant enough mitigating factor to spare his life. And if that were the case, do you really want to retry the penalty phase? So what you have here is finality, and you explain that to the family, and hopefully with time, they might not be able to digest that.
You guys, my eyes are stuck.
Sort of unceremoniously and overnight, but hopefully with time, they will accept it. And something else that I've seen, Anjanette, and prosecutors will weigh in on this as well, you'd be amazed how many people over time change their views about capital punishment.
Yeah, is that a thing?
That at some point they kind of soften up. I don't know if it's because
is that a thing, appealing the death penalty? Well, all the people who were recently put to death, let's give them an opportunity to appeal.
Moments of faith where they look to the cosmos, they look to God or wherever, and they find some compassion or forgiveness for people, or they just believe that the government has no right or business in ending life, that the natural order of things is for people to die naturally and not at the hands of some type of what we call judicial homicide, namely from a jury. And
okay, so those 4 Idaho students should have got the opportunity to die naturally. Do we agree? Do we agree? I'm sick of it already. I can't. As a start by the appellate court, dude. I can't even believe this happened with this case. We were literally getting ready to start streaming this. It was going to be wild. I can't believe it. Okay, so tomorrow, 11 a.m. PST, the hearing. For some of you, like Jules, is 8 a.m. I don't know anyone else. I don't know what your time zone is. But I will be playing this tomorrow night here on my live. We're going to be covering it because I might have to miss it when it's live. But who knows? We don't even know. Is Associated Press the only ones allowed? Yeah, probably. So I don't know how much we'll get to see. I don't know. But I'll be back here tomorrow night. Actually, I'll be back here shortly. We're going to move into a different Melly After Dark. And that's how it works down the side of, yeah, I don't know. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure you tap that like button on your way out. We're still doing Diddy catch up. We are covering Suzanne Morphew Thursday and Friday. I'm obsessed with that case. All the lives will be scheduled. I will see you guys shortly back here if you come into the Melly After Darks. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Jules, my mod. Tap, tap, tap. Yeah, listen to Eternal. Tap, tap, tap. See you in 510. Yes. I'll say and behave. You're going to get spanked. Yes, I will see you guys back at the Melly After Dark. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you, and I will never forget it. I promise. I'll see you guys shortly.